All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Old Mood Podcast, episode 35. It is 35, right?
35, yes.
The days are starting to blur together. It's still, the subathon is still going. It just never stops.
It's still going, y'all.
Never stops. Anyway, I am Blue Squadron, your host, joined as always by J-Kun.
Hi, I'm J-Kun VT. I'm an Awakening Wisdom main. I do a lot of endgame content such as Elden's dungeons, and I'm always happy to welcome new players and answer questions about the game. You can find me over at twitch.tv/JkunVT. And welcome to the Old Moon Podcast, episode 35.
Let's go. Yo, you nailed that, buddy. Look at that.
I did it.
Let nobody say nobody fools J-Kun 35 times in a row and gets away with it. Proud of you, buddy. First try. And Blonde Bear.
Hi, I'm Blonde Bear.
Nah, you got to do better than that. Come on. I'm going to need more than that.
I'm Blonde Bear. I like to grind. You can catch me on twitch.tv/Blonde Bear. Thank you for having me, guys. What's up?
Of course they have you. You're a host on the show, Blonde. You're a
and
host.
I like to party.
Yeah, that's your catchphrase. You got to make up your catchphrase.
Okay.
God.
Okay.
You need a better intro, Blonde. We'll work on it for next week. It's fine. But actually, we have a lot to talk about this week because we have Land of the Morning Light Part 2 teased at essentially I'm not even sure what this thing was. It was like a Korean convention or what? Does anyone know?
It was called G-Star or something.
Yeah, so the Korean G-Star, which is like their E3, which we don't do E3 anymore. Like it hasn't happened the last 2 years, right? Isn't that kind of weird?
You're right. I just realized, what the heck? Where's E3 been?
Koreans still love games though. That's what's important.
COVID.
Yeah.
That's what happened to it.
Well, yeah,
Damn
yeah,
it.
true.
Gotta
That's
ruin
what started
everything.
it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no. So Land of the Morning Light Part 2 is teased. Have you guys seen these images yet?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh yeah.
These are pretty cool. What do you guys think? Blonde Bear, what are your initial thoughts on this? First of all, we didn't even have confirmation that we were gonna get Land of the Morning Light Part 2. We didn't know which expansion. It was
I thought it was going to
be.
Demon Zone before that. That was what I was thinking we were going to be getting sometime soon. But yeah, getting that teased before Demon Zone was pretty interesting. But I think that, the Calpheon Ball, we're going to be looking at stuff. Just from my first impressions, I'm just hoping, cool, maybe some new bosses, but please let there be a grind spot. Please.
Yeah.
There's a big old valley picture, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a nice big old valley of monsters I can kill.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect the Land of Morning Light to be the next region. I was kind of hoping, as Blonde said, the north of Valencia, Land of Demons to be the next region. The reason being, in terms of gear progression, a Horseshoes is the last piece armor to be upgraded to Slumbering Origin armors. So naturally, the next progression part was Slumbering Origin weapons. And I don't know if anybody remembered, but there was a Hashin video, the trailer for it, and it sort of depicted him guarding the gates to the Land of Demons. And if you looked carefully, if you paid attention, the gates were covered in Black Star influence, right? And it even stated that there was supposed to be another meteorite similar to Star's End that's supposed to descend. And I don't know, maybe it already has descended in the Land of Demons, which seems to have the Black Star influence as seen from the trailer. Maybe that's why it's called the Land of Demons. I don't know. And so with Black Star being the best weapon in the game, where else to put a Black Star upgrade or something? Than an area influence to buy another Black Star,
That'd be an interesting lore not complication, but I mean, I'm curious if that's gonna mean that, because we know that the Black Desert is from the meteorite of Blackstone shattering the desert and creating this mass quantity of these materials. I'm really curious if that means that maybe this is that initial landing site that led to the desert and the richness going to the desert. Maybe this is that landing zone for that original meteorite of the Black Spirits, because they kind of retconned some lore and have changed some things. So I'm curious if that's going to tie into that. So that would be pretty cool.
So I know about the initial landing of the Black Spirits, but for those listeners that don't know and perhaps maybe didn't read the lore and maybe may have just hit R through that, could you explain that a little bit more?
So the Black Spirit is literally like Venom. It's like a symbiote that comes, and they were on this random meteor in space. Meteor crashed somewhere near Valencia, and that's what created all the black stones. That's why we have sharps and hards that originally came from the desert. All of our enhancing materials are technically shards of this one gigantic meteor that struck the planet that hit a long time ago and caused basically what it is. That's what shattered all the black spirits into 1,000,000 pieces. That's why we have one black spirit that actually has lost his memory, and then throughout the main story of the quest line, throughout like Medaya and other things, he like goes corrupted, he gets out of you, and then he's like, I'm evil now, and then you beat him up and he's like, oh, okay, sorry, and then you go back in you, and you also obviously, as the story goes, you have amnesia as well. And
you know what else I remember?
Wait, that's what happens during the Valencia quest line? I always thought that was kind of just a weird trip. Yeah, like I didn't realize.
The quest line's primarily about meeting the king and stuff like that. It's not necessarily about that other stuff.
You know what else I remember when you mentioned like the Black Star coming was Sage's lore, right? He was this architect of Ataraxia. He created it as the last stronghold against this calamity called the Black Star, and he truly believed it was the end of the world. And then he lost his memories or something, and then he became a gearlet, and that's when the player starts.
He became a gearlet, he said.
He had like he saw the future. He said, hey, we got this big thing coming. Everybody completely ignored him. He said, I'm going to go train in my hyperbolic time chamber. He went in there, and actually people locked him in there, reset the timer so he didn't wake up in time. He woke up after all of his people were annihilated. That's what the ancient weapons are. That's why they fight us, is because they're trying to destroy the black spirit essence inside of us, per the like story. So yeah,
I'm pretty sure he designed the history of weapons too, like the ancient weapons too.
Yes.
As well. Yeah.
I think the ancients as like a species, because he's like an ancient, designed the materials, but he was the one that was like a big push for it, and it they kind of just ignored him and like, okay, bud.
I feel like we're digressing a bit from the Land of Morning Light part.
No, I like it. I'm learning, bro. I'm over here learning. I mean, I knew all of this stuff, and I was just listening intently. Yes. That being said, so now that we know we're not getting Land of Demons and all of this crazy stuff, and we're getting Land of the Light Part 2, what does that imply for our main storyline? Like we had Yonwa like leave at the end of this storyline, so like what are we kind of expecting here as we move into this expansion? Like, are we expecting her to come out as super evil? Because honestly, I kind of like the morally ambiguous way that she left.
Yeah, I don't think she's like really evil per se. She, like, her intentions, I don't know if anybody paid attention to the Land of Morning Light questline, but her intentions was to protect her brother, right? The king, right? Her baby brother, whom she essentially raised like a mother, because she was much older, right? But it's interesting what direction they're going to take. I don't think they're going to make her either. I feel like there's something to do with Elezra. Maybe she'll appear in the anime,
Yeah.
But I do know that there, if you were going through the quest line, there was a lot of mention, I think, in the Wusa and Megu lore videos as well. And there was like 4 episodes, the twin episodes, on the Prelibis website, YouTube channel. They talked about the 2 schools, Juado School and Wudo School, fighting over these black stones because they had so much power, right? That's why they were like at odds with each other and stuff like that. So I feel like it might continue that storyline, because they mentioned that we're going to be getting introduced to the Megu and Wusa hometowns. And so I feel like we might have a storyline involving those 2 sisters again, as because they're also adding that if you saw in the picture, there was like this arena thing, and apparently that's supposed to go into the
Arena of Champions.
Yeah, a lore of Musa, who's also from Land of Morning Light. I'm not sure. I think Tamer's also from Land of Morning Light, if I'm not mistaken.
A lot of them are, yeah.
A lot of them are, yeah. So we might go into more lore of those classes who we didn't really get into in the mainland, right? Because the mainland, the warrior, I think Valkyries from Calpheon or something like that, etc., etc. So it'd be interesting to see more lore about the characters that we've been playing for so long, that we've finally reached another continent, so that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Wizard and Witch from another dimension, all these characters just all over the place, right?
Wait, are Wizard and Witch really from another dimension?
Yes, they teleported from another dimension to this world.
Oh, I'm learning stuff, bro. Today's learning down. I'm educating myself. Okay.
Based on the screenshots, because we only got like what 2. There's like the big valley, and then there's the Phoenix thing, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I really hope they do add another boss blitz. I mean, that would be a really cool recurring thing if every few months they added a cool new boss they designed. But I'm really hoping that big valley is like going to be specifically related to grinding.
I think there's actually going to be a new world boss, because the image of that Phoenix area is called Phoenix Nest, which sounds similar to Garmoth's Nest, which houses Garmoth, right? And I feel like a Phoenix world boss would be really cool. And additionally, like Garmoth was actually the very last world boss that was added in 2018, so it's literally been 5 years going on 6 years. And I think a Phoenix boss would be amazing. If not, it might be an arena for a Phoenix boss blitz instead, because we do get a lot of mention about Bonghwang, right? Because we know who Bonghwang. I think Bonghwang is the translation to Phoenix from Korean, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know Korean, so but they do mention Bonghwang in Bonghwang's tier, which was originally translated as Phoenix Tears, when in like Garmoth.com, right? Whenever they did the previews for the new crystals and stuff like that, and then they changed it back to Bonghwang. So I do feel like a Phoenix will be a really big, important lore stuff or content stuff in the Land of Morning Light Part 2. So
yeah, I hope they aren't discouraged by the feedback. I feel like a lot of people were like, oh, great, unskippable stories, quest lines, but honestly, that's like 5% of the 95 other percent of the game that you're going to be PvPing and PvEing. I really hope they do put a lot of effort in like the story and stuff. Like it was a thorough experience, even though it was only a week long. It was a fun, thorough experience going through Land of the Morning Light. And then the journal, having you run around and just, again, explore these beautiful zones that are all like handcrafted. My main disappointment is that we didn't get to grind in any of it. We went there, did a thing, and then that was like kind of it. We didn't get to really live there and experience there. Like I go there once a week and I do my stuff and I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. And then I'm going back to whatever my routine is. And that's the main thing I'm disappointed in. And I'm hoping they do add like maybe another well on the other side of the mountain for that.
Okay, two things. First thing, it's possible to have a really good storyline, but also allow people to skip it who don't want or don't care about that storyline.
Sure.
So like that's the balance they should strike. Make it good, continue to improve it, make it better. But for the people that want to skip it, like there's a reason typically that they want to skip it. And people like I wouldn't necessarily skip it on the first go through if it was really good. But like if I'm doing it for the second, third, fourth, fifth time, I want to skip it. Like right now I'm on my brand new EU account. I would like to skip it because I've already seen it all, right? So like it should be skippable. That drives me nuts. 2, there ain't no fucking way that you actually liked running around finding the Dokebi chests.
I 100% loved it. Ask Czane. I went and I said, all right, I had Czane and a bunch of friends. I said, we're all going to do it together. I got him, Teagues, and a bunch of other people. We're all sitting in a Discord and we just all bundled up. And I was like the fucking teacher at school with the little kids on the bus. And I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3, we got everybody. Okay, we're going over to the next spot.
Fun. That actually sounds
Run
fun.
On over. I loved it. Doing it maybe solo is probably a little boring, but doing it with friends made it 20 times better.
Yeah,
I had a blast.
I also did it with friends. Yeah, I did it with all my friends over in Corrupt. All came with me the whole time. It was great. They threw me off of cliffs and set up stun traps at every single chest. It was awesome. It was so much fun to do that quest line with my friends. Such good friends. Well, like I hated realistically speaking, I hated running around looking for the Dokebi chests. I think that most people probably did. I think the idea of a scavenger hunt that makes you explore the world is good so long as it is not required to push your gear score forward. I'm actually curious what your take is, Blonde. If you like that, what's your current take on the adventure logs? Do you like the way they're set up? Because I
love it. I have the complete opposite opinion.
I hate adventure logs that gate essential stats behind like these like what I would consider to be Easter eggs, right? I think that like adventure logs should be more like Easter egg content where you complete the adventure log and you get a super cool outfit for your class, right? That is like custom. And in order to get the adventure log, you have to do something. You have to go off the beaten path and maybe find something that other adventurers probably wouldn't have found. So it's like a reward for doing extra stuff, but it's not necessarily sheet stats. I hate gating sheet stats behind more ridiculous questing. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I really like that. I like the sense of like, we already have so many levels of progression that's automatically guaranteed to us through the game and the gameplay. And like having these little, to me, it's basically a treat whenever we get a new like thing, because it's an event that I can do with either my friends or my guild or whoever I'm doing it with. Be like, hey guys, I'm gonna go do this thing. I'll guide us all through it. But I'm a huge like guide follower. Like I'll pull up the guide, I'll have the video, and I'm like watching it, do this, do that. So that's just my opinion. Like that's the stuff I like to do. I'm a big cookie cutter follower, so any kind of guide or anything, literally on my Elden Ring playthrough, which I know you were playing through, I literally have a YouTube guide that's like, okay, you're gonna run over here and kill this boss, run over here and kill this thing, and I absolutely love it because I'm experiencing it my own way, but also not missing anything. So I kind of tie that thing together sort of in my mind, and I love it. I like the idea that, to me, there's already so much easy progression that having something a little difficult, having something you actually have to do, having some sort of work you have to put into it means that like you care and the effort there is rewarded. But I do understand what you're saying, where having to put effort towards something that's completely unrelated doesn't seem like fun or enjoyable or good. I just think we have too many dopamine buttons already that, like, to me, any kind of resistance is like perfect. Like I love that stuff personally.
In fairness, that is true. Your experience with enhancing is just succeed, idiot, versus my experience with enhancing is much more of a struggle situation.
Jay, I don't know what that's like.
I don't know what that's like.
I really don't.
I don't understand. Why don't, when you click it, it just didn't actually go to the next
play
level.
The game,
that's
have
really
some
weird.
fun, click some gear, you know?
Yeah. So it's different. Jay, what's your thoughts on like the adventure log situation? Did you like going around finding the Dokebi chest? Did you like that?
I didn't mind it. I didn't hate it. But I'm like in the middle. Like I don't hate it. I don't like particularly like. I'm a fan of it, you know, at the same time, you know, but I'm not sure exactly how they should, like, if they, like you said, oh, I hate gating sheet stats behind, you know, these little Easter egg thingies, but how should they gate it? Like, how should they implement sheet stats? Like, how should they be earned? You know, should they maybe remain just on gear? You know what I mean? Like, as like a little reform upgrade or whatever. You know?
No, I kind of like that. I mean, there's a million different ways they can introduce stats to the game. Like there's a lot of different ways that they can do that, whether it be just grinding for an item or doing the dungeon. I would much rather have it gated behind the dungeon. It's fine. Honestly, I'd like to have content that is exclusively gated behind the dungeon. But I'm probably in the minority there. I want to get like a big box at the end, and there's only an exclusive boss drop that you can only get from the end of the dungeon via RNG.
Or some title.
Costume, title,
so
leaderboard, stuff like that.
Let's say you kill, every time you kill a dungeon, I don't know, you get like a little dungeon essence, and then once you get like 100 essences, you can get 1 sheet AP. Is that what you mean by like gating it through the dungeon or something like that?
Yeah, you could, well, not really. Like, I like adding stats to the game through like the end. So you finish the dungeon the first time, you get an AP if you wanted to, or like you finish that entire playthrough the first time, or like you said, you could do an essence thing, but that requires you to grind the dungeon. I don't necessarily like grinding the dungeon as much as I like wanting to go do the dungeon so that I can get a rare drop that only drops through the dungeon. Right? Like I like walking into that final room and seeing like 100 chests and picking one and knowing that one of them has the thing that I really want in there. I don't know. Like I really enjoy that because it's group content that you get to do, and it's gated, and you know there's RNG gate there, so it's like there's a lot of replayability as long as the mechanics feel good and fun and stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that I like. Now that being said, I hate the Dokebi chest so much I feel like Anakin on the slope, screaming at Obi-Wan. But like, I can see Blonde Bear's take on it. Do you guys think we're gonna get another adventure log in this new expansion?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And maybe if they tied it specifically to the like the zone itself and more lore-based stuff on that, like if they did literally a Dokebi chest 2.0, because they want us again. I think the whole purpose was to, hey, we have this massive world and you're probably not going to go to any of it, but we want you to look at all the work and effort we put in. And the Dokebi chest is sort of that like other-sided hand of like, hey, we built this, and now you get to look at it, and here's the exploration of that world. If they did something like that again, I mean, I'd like it, but I know I'm not in the majority because
Oh my god,
again,
no.
dopamine button, just give me it for free already. Like I don't want to have to do something I don't want to do, which I get.
They maybe change the rewards to, rather than like sheet stats or like something you would definitely want for your account, what if it's like an optional thing? Let's say, I don't know, you finish the entire Dokui chest and you get like a Gearance tier, which you don't technically have to do.
It'll always be mandatory. Any kind of gain in any way, shape, or form is always going to be a mandatory thing. Players will always min-max. I mean, I think that's also why the reason we don't have like easy tags to Shy, because if Shy was easy to tag, everybody would tag it because everybody would want it in every single group. You know what I mean? That's just my thought on it. I feel like people will always min-max everything out of everything.
Yep, absolutely. That's why I don't like gating. I want more exclusive titles. I want more, like, that's what the MMO communities love so much, is just flexing your EP on people, right? You're walking through towns, like, how do you get that outfit? I want people to look, I want that sense of exploration. I want people to look at my character and go, wait, how did he get that outfit? And then I'll be like, oh, sneaky, you know, I was gathering moss sap and I discovered this, like, you know, like,
oh my god, you've got Nouver, that's crazy. Like when that first came out and people were getting it, like everybody was talking about that. Or the titles too, like the first few like really cool titles that had unique colors. I mean, we haven't had what is that event, the summer event, in like so long, and that's also another big
Mysteries
thing.
of Summer, I missed that.
Mysteries of Summer. Well, honestly, well, the problem is the community killed that event.
100%.
They had Rock Look Deep, and the community actually just ended those CM's careers.
Okay, but
that was the end of it.
Unforgivable.
They mentally never recovered from that quest.
Rock Look.
That was honestly one of the biggest mistakes ever. I couldn't believe that.
Rock Look Deep.
That was the worst thing to ever happen to BDO ever.
It couldn't have been that bad, bro. It's not that bad.
It was okay. Were you there? In a Discord with all these people doing the research, and you were in Tariff looking at the walls and looking back and looking at the board and looking at this and looking at that, and it ends up being a Freemason symbol that has a G on it, and you had to press G to pop up the guild finding menu. That's what it was. And if you're in a guild, you would never see that. So like the thought process for looking, I was just. Holy crap! It was the most. It's unforgivable.
Really passionate.
Unforgivable.
I loved it mainly because I wasn't doing it. I loved watching.
I bet it was content to watch.
Yeah, I loved watching all of you losing your fucking brain cells trying to chase after this Mysteries of Summer event. It was the highlight of the year. Was watching people like mindlessly. I'm like doing my daily quest for Termian, right? I'll never forget this. I'm like swimming out to the pirate ship. There's a quest where you had to swim out into the water. You had to dive deep, and then you had to like interact with this like coral, right? And I come up to the surface, and I look to my right, and there's a Mewa cussing out another Musa, who is trying to jump to these invisible platforms. You can't even see what they're jumping on. There's just a Musa moving up and down like this in the middle of the air. And he's standing on seemingly nothing. And the Mewa had missed the jump and just fell off and was literally cussing out the Musa in general chat. Like, watching this happen, watching these people jump onto these moving platforms that you can't even see was so funny. It was so much fun to watch. Honestly, I wish they would bring it back. Honestly, even if it's the Rock Look Deep, that was funny.
Different. The Rock Look Deep was a text adventure based on, I think, our CMs and GMs on NAEU. That was different than the actual, like, when they actually code into the game the platforms and all that. I really enjoy the platform stuff, like when Vigors and I'm a Cutie Pie and everybody were playing, and I was showing like Vigors how to do we crawled to the top of Necropolis in Sherikon, and we were doing the jump puzzles. That stuff was really a lot of fun. I really do like that stuff. The text adventure was fun for some of it, but some of it was so not cool.
Such a good time.
Does anyone remember the hot air balloon mechanic where you had to
had to log off
and then come back in and then hope that was some tough timing. I hated that. Oh my god,
that was some tough timing.
Because some people's like computers couldn't even do it. Like like you would load too slow.
Sounds like a skill diff, to be honest. Yeah, sounds like a skill diff, to be honest.
Yeah,
literally.
So you were you were like gated by your hardware outside of the game, which I felt was very unfair.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Okay, let's move back to our topic a little bit because we diverged. No, that's amazing. We love doing that.
Yeah.
But if we look over at Land of the Morning Light Part 2, we did talk about the questing, which was a big part of the first expansion, which is why I kind of wanted to lead that discussion off. But the second thing I want to look at is the actual content. And by actual content, I mean the developers teased. They said, hey, we're going to take a little bit of a different approach. We understand that people weren't as happy with Land of the Morning Light in terms of like PvE content. Do you guys think this means more boss blitz, or do you guys think that they're actually going to have monster zones?
I think monster zones. I think monster zones. Like they've been looking for a way to do more extra stuff. Like Choice and I had this conversation a long time ago where it's like, hey, let's why doesn't BDO add more things like RuneScape where you can just do these activities? You've reached this gear score, you can do these activities. And like I think that the boss blitz was like a push in that direction. Same thing with the dungeons. Same thing with like the Altar of Blood. All these things. The Shadow Arena was one of those types of things, but some of them kind of hit or miss. Some of them like people need to get some sort of reward. Some things have to be like literally inherently fun, and I feel like they're really scared about taking risks. And Boss Blitz was cool, but yeah, at the end of the day, people like going over there for 30 minutes doing their stuff and logging out. Some amazing people are going out there and refreshing their level 7 green
absolute
buff for their
heroes
server because they're yes 100% absolute heroes. They're amazing. Those people are great. But yeah, it's kind of, I think they're gonna probably go back to the grinding because they're like, this has worked for us and seems to continue working for us. And I don't know if it's so hard to see whether or not PA is gonna do like a big risk thing or not. You know what I mean? It's tough.
I don't know. They took a risk with Land of the Morning Light, or they took a risk with like the boss blitz. I don't think that their problem is taking risks. I think their problem is following up. I think they actually kind of nailed it with boss blitz. I just think that. Yeah, when Boss Blitz initially came out, it was a huge success. People loved it. People loved going over there, blah, blah, blah. But, like, then they just kind of stopped touching it for a while. The rewards fell out of favor, and now no one... I'm sorry, I can't be... Man, I don't want to go through 2 load screens that could potentially crash my game, run all the way to the thing, then run two load screens all the way back just to get back to the mainland.
Yeah, it should be something like a menu pop-up or something like that, where you just like queue up and you go right in.
Correct.
Lost Ark had the same thing where you would have to go specifically to a town board to specifically open a thing. Then eventually they changed a thing where it's like now you can open up a menu just on your screen and just it'll teleport you in with your group or whatever. And I think that probably eventually that's what needs to happen. I think similar to like
Pit of a Dying?
what you were Pit of a Dying 2 would be really nice like that. I think that's like the essential thing with sorry, what you were saying about oh my god, I lost my train of thought.
It's the essential part of oh my god. I'm doing this on Gotchi. Yeah, I lost my train of thought too. Well, honestly, Jay, how do you feel about it? What do you think they should do? Do you think there's going to be new monster zones?
I think there's going to be both, a mixture of both, because I feel like the boss blitz is like, if you just look at the menu of it, there's 3 fire bosses, 3 moon bosses, 4 earth bosses. So I feel like they're trying to expand it, right? Like Imugi was the first sort of expansion to it. And so I feel like they've built that system to be expanded upon. So I do think there's going to be more boss splits in the future. With Land of Morning Light Part 2, in addition to grindstones, because I think for Land of Morning Light, there's a lot of people who did their quest line and then they did their boss splits for the week, or sometimes they don't even do their boss splits for the week, and you don't get to experience a lot of the because they had some really interestingly designed mobs, right? And it sucks that you only get to experience these new mobs during the quest line. So I have a feeling they might create some grindstones for the new zone and utilize these assets for the expansion of the region. So
yeah, I hope
that's what I'm thinking.
Do you think the grind zones are going to be party grind zones, or do you think that they're going to be so? I think that they will.
Please,
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that they'll have at least 1 to 2 party grind zones, and that is because they just released Ulukita, and there's nothing in Odalita that does party grind zones.
I have a feeling there might be a 5-man party grind zone, because the only 5-man party grind zone we have right now is Gyfins, Upper Gyfins.
Uppies.
And Uppies has been around since 2017, technically, right? Since Kama Sylvia first released, right?
Kama release.
They haven't had another one since, so hey, we could do another one 7 years later. Let's go.
Technically, eventually, we were able to make Miramaka 5-man grind spot, but that's, That is what it is. It doesn't really exist anymore.
Well, now you have Gyfin, like upper Gyfin.
Yeah, now we have
Technically, yeah.
reformed Dummies, which is something people begged for such a long time, and it's nice to have it changed.
I'm curious if you guys think that we are actually going to get, and this is an important question for Jay too. We have not heard anything about the final level of the dungeon. I think that we're going to get it in the Calpheon Ball, or that they're going to announce it. Do you guys, like, I haven't heard heads or tails of it, though. I feel like that they would have teased it, but maybe they only wanted to tease the new region.
I think it's a complex balancing thing. The dungeons currently, even the speed run for all three, take about 45 minutes, maybe, if you're, like, pretty good. And if you're, like, an average group of people, it takes, like, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on what happens in your group, so... I think they're trying to logistically see, like, okay, do we make it so that the third one rewards for the first two dungeons and maybe you just do 3 and 4, or the fourth completion maybe completes 2 rewards so you get double chests but not from something because I can't see them wanting to maybe do something that's going to take people 2 hours to do, because I think this third dungeon is going to be the biggest and longest, I think, in my opinion.
Do you think so, Jay? Jay, you're the Jay. I would say Blonde. You probably know a lot about the dungeon too, but I think Jay is obviously the foremost.
He's
expert.
The master.
Yeah.
We both. No,
honestly,
he's the master.
You know what killed me is that PA had that dungeon event. I was like NA versus EU. I was like, oh, we have Jay. We win automatically. And then they didn't have Jay on the thing. I was like, is it because he was just too busted? Did they just have to nerf you? They just couldn't let you on the show?
No, it's okay. Sometimes they have me, sometimes they don't. I'll take any opportunities I get, but if they don't, it's okay.
I forgive you. Jesus.
Some of those members were like part of a team that did a literally NA world record for that, so I think that was the idea.
Yeah, well, we dominated EU for that anyway, so fuck them.
100%.
Yeah.
NA represent.
Yeah, we beat EU every single time we actually do anything.
True.
It's kind of crazy. That being said, Jay, how do you feel about the dungeon? You know all the lore and stuff, Jay. What is the dungeon wrap up? What is the big thing that we have to do?
Well, every time we're going to fight a boss, Elezra's there. So I have a feeling it's gonna be about Elezra. I'm sorry. I know you hate Elezra.
No!
You always like
her again? No way. No, it's because I don't have anything against her. It's that they used her for she's main character in the main story, and in every succession quest, whoever NPC that you're talking to by the end of the quest line has turned into Elezra. You're like, you again? No way. Like, no, you're so stupid, bro. That can come up with something new. Maybe honestly,
she is the big daddy.
Silver lining here: we kill her, and then she can't be a part of anything anymore.
Well, they could do something with the Black Star, right? Because I do think the Black Star is also like a really big, like lore heavy impact into the story of BDO, in terms of both power and moving the moving the lore. What do you call it? The storyline, moving the storyline across, right? There's always been that influence that the Black Star is going to destroy the world, right? And so maybe Ataraxian being the last stronghold against the Black Star would be a plot point for them to use as a theme for it, So that's why I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe the Sage has something to say about it, But he forgot everything, so I don't know.
Yeah, the Sage is clearly the main character of the whole storyline anyway. So. But like, I don't like. So Jay, what would you have them do with the final dungeon? Is there anything that you would have them like improve like innately on how you're running the dungeon every week?
What about if the fourth dungeon was not a dungeon but a raid instead? It would be like a 20.
Okay, what's the difference?
Tune. Right. Oh well, you need 20 people instead of 5.
Okay, well yeah, there you go. Hey, any large scale PvP PvE content that I can shot call is a huge W. Not just for me, but for all of the content creators. Let's be honest, but for everybody. I think everyone would love to get together. If there's one thing people love to get together and do in this game, it's PvP. But if there's one thing I think that they would love even more, it's cooperative PvE. I think that everyone can get on board. Yeah, I think that everyone can get on board with cooperative PvE. PvP, some people just don't like the toxicity that goes into it, right? So like, I think that would be absolutely huge if they did that. It would be so cool.
Yeah, it'd be a much different dynamic than a 5-man, because I think they've really, like, if you look at the mechanics from the first dungeon to the second dungeon to the third dungeon, they've like I think they've really improved upon they're capable of making some really meaningful, interesting mechanics, and they've learned their lessons from before. Like the first one was really easy, right? The second one was quite hard. I don't know if you were there back in I think it was October 2021.
I watched. I watched that.
Painful.
Yep, I was not a big creator then. I watched Vert try it again and again. I forget who was in his group. Again and again and again and again. Like, and they just...
the third dungeon, I think they nailed the difficulty of that. And then a 20-man platoon, right? Is going to be it's good. It's going to really test the whoever's developing the dungeons, the mechanics to deal with 20 people, right? It's a very, very different mechanic. I don't know if you've rated in or I don't know if you played World of War. I know Blonde Bear has played World of Warcraft.
I've played it a little bit, yeah.
And there's definitely, like, when you do the dungeons in World of Warcraft, it has a very different dynamic from a raid set, obviously, because there's so much more people. It's a lot bigger and grand, and I think that's what we need in BDO, is something grand to do.
Yeah, I think so too.
The dungeon is an opportunity to do that. So
yeah, that would be so sick. Maybe that's why it's taking them so long. Copium.
Yeah, I think that's 100% why it's taking them so long, because Elezra is a huge character in this story. Apparently, our characters, because we have amnesia, right? Our characters worked with Elezra before we were amnesified or whatever, right? Before we got amnesia and were combined with the Black Spirit. We worked with her for a long time. She's even in our Succession quest line to assist us with that. But she's like been a prominent character through all the story. She stole Zarka's soul. She tried to bring the 3 Days of Darkness in Medaya, in like the Tariff stuff. And there's been like a lot of stuff involving her, and then the dungeons, she's kind of obtaining more and more power, but it's there's been like theories of like if she's another key character, like is she Hadum or a representative of Hadum? People think she's maybe a servant of Hadum, and maybe this will be the current day and age version of her trying to get enough power to bring him back through the Kama Sylvian realm. Like, it just depends on where they kind of want to go for it. And this leads maybe into the Demon Zone too. We'll probably get the 4th dungeon before the Demon Zone, and then it'll move into that. We probably defeat her, but after she's maybe completed the mission, and that's why the Orzekia, which is an ancient dwarven kingdom, by the way, if you didn't know, is like maybe that's because it's all related to Kama Sylvia and Odalita and Grana and all that stuff, where the elves have like this alternative realm that was taken over by Hadum. So it really depends on if this like final dungeon is going to be like, okay, like we finally get to her, and then we have a mini boss and a mini boss, and then we have her, and then we defeat her, but she's completed her mission, and then there's going to be like this huge evil darkness realm, and that's going to lead into the Demon Zone, where we got to go to the Demon Zone to purge a bunch of stuff. Like they could tie it in. I really hope they tie it in. But she's going to be like super powerful at this point because of or she could be like one of those like, oh, she's doing all this evil stuff, and then she's like, actually, I'm going to save the world, and, turn on Hadum last minute or something stupid. It depends.
Well, I remember there was this like, wasn't there like a big giant Black Spirit invasion that happened a long time ago? Maybe
the meteor
also tie in that. Yeah, the meteor.
The meteorite striking caused 1 million Black Spirits, and like she's absorbing all of them, but I think she has all of them except for ours or whatever. That's like what the work that we did with her.
Maybe it happens again.
She like utilizes their power.
Repeats itself, and there's another Black Spirit another Black Star that comes down.
Well, that's like literally the stars end what was to be a world boss is like Hadum being brought into our realm. It's the god Ayad. That's what the weapon's named after. Is the god Ayad is what was supposed to be being spawned, and that's like that boss that was supposed to be there that we saw like teaser footage of. So it's possible she may be trying to do another one of those where they're bringing in basically literally the Black Sun over to land on our planet and take over the world. It really, the motivations are what are unclear, but there's obviously something going on, and I think that's on purpose, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be super sick. I'm really hoping that it's that like large scale PvE content. Like you said, like if Jay's right, we get 20 people in a raid. Like that's what I think the big thing that BDO is missing is just like big cooperative PvE content that we can all get together.
See, and that's like I think the tough thing to sort of like not balance, but motivate players to do is like, we can get in plats and we can go kill world bosses. Everybody tags, everybody does whatever. Oh, we do a 5-man dungeon, like we can get together, we can do that. But creating content that's scaled well for like 20 people to be in a plat to go into something and everybody instances correctly and stuff. I think that the 20 player limit to a plat would be probably one of the best ways to do it if they could figure it out, because it's like you feel like you have enough people, but it's not like only 5 people where it's like, okay, we got 5 people and everybody's going to do their part. It's like in a 20-man raid, especially like we were talking about in World of Warcraft, it's like, we can have some slackers, but we have some like, pullers, and then we have like, some average people, and like everybody can kind of get through the content and do it. And yeah, having that large scale feel, not only in PvP, which is where we only get that feeling, would be really cool. Like, I think comments have been thrown around like about a PvE node war. This like War of the Roses is kind of dabbling a little bit in that, because there's some monsters to kill that like are part of the castle sieging. Like if they capitalize more on that, I think that could be a lot more, in my opinion, fun content for people to do in groups together, and I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely agree. So we've been talking for a while about this. Oh my gosh. We have one more topic that I'd like to talk about, and I think it's really important, as we are going to get it, in the next like patch here. And that is the new skill add-ons. So like, I think that this is going to dramatically shift the meta of the game, especially in like large scale PvP, but like, yeah, I mean they're pushing this for PvE, but like there's a lot of implications here for the world. So like, what are you guys most excited about with these? Like, they're coming tonight, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are you guys most? Yeah. What are you guys most excited about? Blonde, I'll start with you. For the skill add-ons coming in.
I don't know if excited, but my commentary on the add-ons was that probably this should have came before class balance. I feel like we just got a bunch of adjustments. Some classes got big changes, some classes got small changes. There were cooldowns, other stuff. Now adding a flat amount that everybody is getting for add-ons onto all these classes that are going to mean so much more for some classes and so little for others that were already reaching those caps is going to create even more imbalance. I don't know if this was originally intended that they're like, hey, we're going to put these tier 3 add-ons right after we do this thing, or if this is going to be one of those like, we need to do more, and they're like, okay, let's just throw in, everybody gets tier 3s and we're just going to go crazy. I hope that they internally balanced all the changes they recently put and the tier 3 add-on changes together, because right now, some classes are looking a little ahead, some classes are looking a little behind, but I think it was just way too crazy. We really have to see what the testing looks like and what everything's going to look like, but I cannot believe that they just were like, all right, and everybody's going to get tier 3 add-ons and it's going to be crazy, because it's like we just got quote unquote balanced and now we're getting completely unbalanced again, because like, for example, Shy's never been able to get tier 3 add-ons, and now because it's all based on like timers and cooldowns and you're always getting the max amount, Shy's now going from like 0 to hero on top of all the other buffs we've already gotten, which is great. I love Shy buffs. Let's go Shy. But so many other classes are having so many different changes based on cooldowns, and this, I mean, rotations might even change, because people use most of their rotations based on the cooldowns based on their add-ons, but now that it's all based on their timers, like, we're going to get significant changes. And yeah, the changes on PvP are going to be absolutely insane. It's like, I think everybody now is always going to have like a perma 20 extra DP, and also a 20 DP shred, and also a 20 AP, and also an attack speed shred, like at max level. I just think it was so not thought about for more than 2 seconds, personally.
Yeah, no, like I think you're right. I think it's gonna throw PvE way out of balance. I think it's a little ridiculous. I also think it's a little ridiculous that they keep giving Shy all of these buffs.
I love it.
Over and over and over again.
Shy players chilling.
Bro, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, you love it because you like the group grind stuff. The PC.
Well, I think it's important that Shys are powerful, because barely anyone plays them enough, because there's no incentive to. So incentivizing that gameplay, because everybody hates it because it's a kid, whatever, it's really frustrating, because people are like, yeah, if it was something else I'd play it, but they gotta make it powerful enough to be like, man, maybe I should play this would make my group grind really great, I'd be useful to my friends.
It's like tag and stuff, because you can't
tag, you gotta make the soul, now you gotta put 10k Kafirs into it, but it's super worth the investment that you're putting into that class. So yeah.
I have a completely different take on the add-ons. I actually really like the imbalance. I'm like all for imbalance. I like whenever blue is literally like Blue's always talking about this like stupid little snow globe and snow globe and shaking up the meta, and perhaps this is the way to do it. I was thinking they could have gone further with it. To be honest,
Sure.
like, to be honest, like, okay, hear me out. Okay, let me cook a bit. Okay, let's say the add-on system, you could infuse some variations for some of your class abilities. So in the past episodes, we've touched on like skill variations and skill trees, and I think this could have been a possible way to do it. So let's say you could add an add-on to, let's say, Witch, Voltaic Pulse for the Witch class, right? Which is the circular AoE of lightning around you. Let's say the add-on alters the spell to cause it to be this long-range line AoE instead. Or another example, let's say we take Wusa. Wusa has a spell called Stormfall, which summons wind and rain around Wusa to, fight against her foes. Let's say there's an add-on that, I don't know, adds a vortex pull to the spell. Or another idea I had, which would sort of change her sort of niche, was, let's say this add-on turns Stormfall into this monsoon of healing for her and her allies that also pushes enemies away instead. And this changes her niche to take on more of a support and utility role. Stuff like that for every class. I feel like, this is, again, that snow globe that shakes out the meta. But I don't know. I like the imbalance. I like the people not knowing what the meta is, and then just trying out all these different things and just playing whatever they want to play because they think it looks cool and stuff like that, right? So I'm not even trying to shake. I'm trying to like break the meta. I'm trying to break that snow globe, smash it on the ground, and then see where everything falls into place. We'll
Jay,
see.
you're fucking nuts.
From a
From
a criticism perspective, I have my opinion, but on that other end, like my own, I'm all for the chaos too. I do completely agree with that. I think everybody should be OP and everybody should be having fun. That's like my personal goal. I just think that if we're going to be critical about it, I don't think it was well thought of and it's going to cause a lot of problems. But on the other end, I love everybody having fun. So if everybody's having fun and being happy playing their class, people need to have fun grinding, because that's, again, 90% of what you're going to do until you reach your gear goal, and then you got to find something else to do, whether it's PvP or whatever, and people need to have fun doing that. And if this makes that fun, then hey, that's a good change in the end. I think.
Sorry, Etsy just fucking yarded me, bro. I'm so pissed. I'm actually so fucking pissed right now.
Actually, can I add one more thing? There's one other combat. So they're changing up this combat system, right? They're sort of reworking it, the add-on system. I feel like there was one more combat system that they could and should touch on, which I always felt was a little bit lackluster and could use some TLC, and that's the rebombs, the skill enhancement system. Oh yeah. Okay. Also, one side note, I always get this question asked on like my stream, like whenever I refer to skill enhancements as rebombs, like why are they called rebombs, right? It always confuses my chat, but it's actually originally from this NPC called Rebomb. She's the skill instructor in Valencia, and she invented and discovered the technique of mixing two abilities together. So that's where the Rebomb name comes from. That's how it was originally named when they first released it. That's why it's called Rebombs. It's named after her. So anyways, I always love having these unique ways to customize your playstyle, and skill trees are probably like the best way to do that. And skill enhancement skills or rebombs are like the closest thing we have to what a skill tree is for BDO. And I feel like they could do so much more. Like, let's say we still have the 3 skill slots, maybe we get more in the future, but let's say we have 10 different options that could dictate a little bit of the variation of the playstyle we play. So let's say we want to play a bit more aggressively or offensively. We could take offensive options for our rebombs or skill enhancements, right? Or maybe let's say we want to play a little bit more support and utility and defensive, and then there would be options for that kind of playstyle as well. And maybe we could take it a step further and introduce awakening rebombs or awakening skill enhancements, whatever you want to call it. So those would be my ideas. I feel like they could touch it just a little bit,
Yeah, because people, the problem with making the rebombs being 2 skills that are like both damage or both protection or both the same thing means that there's no variation. People will always choose the 0.1% better skill every time, no doubt about it. But if they make both skills completely different, something that's maybe a heal, something that's a damage, something that's a huge CC, something that's in a different way, I think that's the proper way to have those rebombs laid out, because people will always choose like damage for grinding, but if there's a very big variation, like you actually are choosing rather than just picking best in slot and just going with it, right?
they both have their own role and niche. Like when you choose the two, like I think the first Rabam for Witch and Wizard really nails it.
Right.
Because
you have the fireball or the heal, right? That's
or the heal, yeah.
That's the best one. It's like, are you going Rabam? Are you Rabam healing because you're a Giga Chat, or are you Rabam fireballing because you're a dumb idiot who's gonna go solo in?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, don't you dare tell me.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's like Rabams definitely don't have, they're not living up to the potential that they absolutely could. So like I think they could do a lot more with skill trees. I was actually kind of hoping at the ball that maybe they would come out and hit us with like something like new and like spicy. Like a new skill tree, kind of like they did with Succession the one time.
Yeah.
Like I think they could do more with the classes. Like I want to feel more like attached to my class. Like I am attached to them, but like, you know, there's always the chronic reroll syndrome. So I don't know. I do feel that the skill add-ons are going to have huge implications in PvP that probably were not thought through at all. And by probably not thought through, I mean 100,000,000%. There's no way that they thought it through. But like, I think that because like I don't know, there's going to be some classes that are just basically going to rise to the top of the metagame, just because they get a bunch of HP on hit, or they have a bunch of extra damage on certain skills now that they didn't have before. Now they can hit 100% crit damage all the time, or whatever. Like they're just going to be doing far more damage than they did before. I also think that like they kind of put PvE in a solid spot, and then like what is with the nerfs? Why are they nerfing like Lon and DK and stuff when like the add-ons aren't even out yet, and they're nerfing classes? Like, what is the deal with that?
Well, it just shows that it's all about KR, and no feedback from NAE or any other region got to go to them. So it's going to be entirely KR's feedback that they're going to listen to, which is frustrating. Because we all play the game, not just KR, right?
Yep.
So I don't know what they're thinking. I don't think they're thinking.
Got 1 point there.
Oh, you mentioned Juan, you mentioned that you wanted to touch on something, right? The crystal stuff, right? Or something like that?
Yeah. So I was having a chat with some friends of mine, and I thought of this thing that'd be kind of cool to talk about. There's not a lot of chaotic PvE content in BDO, right? We have we basically the most chaos we ever had was Altar of Blood. You know what I mean? And I guess the bosses could be kind of chaotic, but everything's kind of like, okay, I kill this pack, I kill this pack, I kill this pack, I run in a circle. That's like your daily grind. And there's like a lack of that. Similar to that, the Crystal Loss event caused so many players, especially on Reddit, I saw different Discords, friends, new players, all to go out and try all kinds of different grind spots. And I've had this conversation with some friends about like how we should not have crystal loss. The console market seems to be fine even with no crystal loss, because new players are still coming in and buying up crystals. Some stuff's affected. I think their rebellious is low, and that's a good thing because you have to do literally 3 main story quest lines just to combine the crystals just to get it. But I think that it's it'd be cool if there were more. My friend and I had this discussion. It'd be cool if there were more dynamic, crazy spots. And again, we touched on this a little bit, like the new War of the Roses having like some PvE content, like a PvE node war has been mentioned, like I said before. It'd be really cool if we had that, because we don't have like any of this sort of and this has been touched on obviously by everybody, like now that because the goal was get gear so you can do node wars, but so many people complained that they couldn't access node wars because they had to grind so much that they made it so that everything's kind of gear capped, right? So now there's no like, even if you're 700 gears, like if you're whatever gear score, you can do any of the wars, right? And there's very little content that's like based on your gear, but people aren't motivated to grind to get stuff. So like having this gear progress similar to like, not exactly, but World of Warcraft is like, okay, you're leveling and you're questing, then you hit max level, okay, then you're going to do your normal dungeon, okay, then you get the normal dungeon gear, then you move to heroic dungeon, okay, you did your heroic dungeon, now you're going to do your mythic dungeon, okay, now that you got mythic dungeon, now you can actually access the raid. And those kind of types of progression aspects, like, oh, I've reached 680 gear score, now I can do War of the Roses, oh, I reached 700 gear score. It shouldn't just be inherently the grind spots themselves that are the motivation, because that slowly stopped the motivation. It should be other things, like other activities and things to be able to have access to, like Like, oh, I want to reach 710 gear score because then I can queue up for War of Odraxia. Now me and my friends can go do a PvE node war where it's a horde mode system and we're killing 1 million mobs or something. There's got to be extra aspects to the game because the sandbox bit of like, well, you can do anything. Well, everybody just wants to grind and then go into PvP or just keep grinding, and then they grind so much they're not motivated because there's no other aspect of the game to like play. All the grind spots are pretty similar. You know, people are wanting a little bit of variation, and you know, I think that's kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
I think we're all asking for just more PvE content. I know, and I'm the PvPer here. Of the three of us, I'm the PvPer. Like I do feel that they should probably address somewhere in the ball that they need to address the state of like open world PvP. They've got to do something about that. But more importantly, I think like any sort of raid or large scale PvE content is really good. And then like I just think it would be kind of basic if they looked at the new region and they were just like, well, here are the new grind spots. Some of them are parties, some of them are not. You know, here's the new class. I don't think that that's enough. Like, I'm tired of that content cycle. I want something new, especially since we have like this is the opportunity to make something new. Like we've got Ator shoes now. That's done. All 4 Dead God armor pieces are done. Now they need to come up with something new, something to push us to the next level. I'm really hoping that like the new hoping against hope that the new like dungeon raid is like a 20-man dungeon raid, and then the new upgrade is gated behind doing that consistently
over and over again. Yeah,
I would love doing that. I would love that.
Guild Wars 2 does this system where somehow all old content in any expansion is always relevant, because you sort of have these like Sherpa runs. I know it's inherently based on the design of the game, but they have like constant systems where you're always running back to go collect a currency, and they don't have a gear score. Their gear is like, you have like some basic gear when you're leveling up and you hit max level, and then you can get what's called ancestral gear, and that's kind of like gear with stats. But you can do all content at basically kind of any gear level. There's no real thing, and you can do all the old content and all the old expansions. And there's like tons of just random activities and events that pop up, like literal events that'll pop up at like exactly 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and then you run around and follow these things and kill these monsters. Then you run around and do this event. Like having more active like world style events like that, I think would be really cool. I don't know how it would be on the game design for its server and other things like that. I don't know, but having that like something being like just like chaotically dynamic, I guess, is the idea. Even when you don't have incentives for gear specifically, but you have incentives in other ways, like they give you collectibles or a costume or a pet or a thing or that. Like I just got my 8th Pitapat mole leaf thing, and the pet's not even that good, and I'm like, man, I can't wait till I get 10 so it can be a regular mole. It's not even legendary. It's not even tier 4 automatically. What the heck?
Actually, when you were talking about that stuff with like ancestral gear or whatever, that kind of reminded me of I don't know if the same thing, but in Final Fantasy they have forgot what it's called, but you could scale down. Let's say you're doing an old raid, it would like scale down your gear so that it would be as difficult as when the raid first came out.
Yeah,
and then if you did that, you would be able to achieve the achievements or whatever.
Yep,
and
Final Fantasy does that.
Those. Yeah, you would get those aesthetics that were, you know, because you can't get the aesthetics if you use your overpowered gear. You had to do it at the time when it was difficult, and so that was a way to do it. And maybe, I don't know, BDO could have something like that where, I don't know, you know, you have gear capped PvP. Maybe there's gear capped PvE stuff that's still really hard to do. And if you were able to do it, you could get these really cool exclusive, I don't know, aesthetic costumes or titles or et cetera, you know.
Yeah, I don't think them designing a new costume for everybody to buy, like, sure, that incentivizes some players to buy it and some people are going to get it, but like having a new costume to go get from a boss or a grind spot or something, they need to like they need to do that for like the next 5 costumes. Okay, like make another world boss, one of the super world bosses drop a costume, people go to Kudum because they want a cool Kudum costume. Okay, make a dungeon costume. Okay, you've run all 3 dungeons. Once you get like 50 of each pity piece from every single dungeon, you can combine them together and get a super cool outfit. Like something that motivates people to play other than monetization, because people are like not caring about money. Like, what do I need money for if I'm gear capped on all my node wars? I'm going to log in a node war and log out. I want to keep playing, but I have no incentive because I don't want to go in circles. I want to do something else. And that needs to be incentivized through rewards that are in our system, but a different thing. You know what I mean? Like a token that gets redeemed somewhere. Like It'd be so cool, and it would still be the same systems we already have, just adding a loot drop that lets you redeem that. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, I completely agree.
Good.
Yeah, no, we are running low on time here. At the end of time remaining, I was too busy BMing CM Etsu there. Oh, the dude yarded me, so I just said that CM Etsu is now the balanced CM, and you should DM him directly on Discord with all of your balance complaints and concerns. Two can play at this game, 1-1, bozo. That being said, we should probably do outros at this point. Jay, why don't you go first here?
Yeah, hi, I'm JQ VT. I'm an Awakening Wisdom. Doing a lot of endgame PvE content, such as Owens, the dungeons, and I'm always happy to answer questions for new players, old players. Come find me over at twitch.tv/JQVTV before the T.
Oh, right on. You kind of nailed that. And Blonde?
I know.
I know. It's like, I know.
Same what Jakun said. Yeah, same thing. Twitch.tv/BlondeBear.
Oh my God, you cannot. Nah, this is like
Blonde
one time.
The bear.
No, this is like one time I was recruiting for my guild in World Chat, and I put out all this really well thought out like stuff. It looks like all really crisp and everything. And somebody just posts under it and goes, join this guild, slightly better than the aforementioned guild. And then they put their fucking Discord information.
I'm BlondeBear. I'm 8 out of 9 on the LVD. Pretty sure I'm number 1 in NA to get it. One day it'll drop. We're waiting for the Eyeball at Thornwood. That's where I'm grinding. And I'm still 4 to 5 for the Merchant Ring piece at Owens. So you can catch me on my stream at twitch.tv/BlondeBear. There, we're at 1,500 hours of grinding Owens without a piece dropping in my inventory, although it drops in everybody else's. No. So yeah, catch me doing that on my stream.
And I am Blue Squadron, who cannot be swayed by BlondeBear. Do not try to feel sorry for him in any way. He one-tapped all 3 of his Debos. One-tapped all of his dead gods and is literally god of enhancing. Has never struggled in his life except at this one piece, and he's actually has the gall to complain about it. It's actually unreal.
Well, I've never complained about that ever. Never, ever.
What you're? What
and it was a 1 and a 2 and a 3 tap on the necklace, belt, and then earring. Actually.
Oh wow, you're 3 out of 6. Oh my god.
Oh no, that must have been horrible.
Well,
for
it's like
you.
It's cool. It's like 1 and then 2 and then 3. Like that's really cool, right? Yeah. So the ring will be number 4. It'll be 4 clicks, right? That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Demons.
Yeah, and you've never complained about the Merchant Ring piece, except that Jay made this wonderfully apt GIF of you. And who literally it's
do you know how many he's dropped
Frodo,
like 4 of them with
Frodo
me.
has the ring around his J-Kun. Frodo's got the ring around his neck, and here comes yeah, and here comes this. Oh, that's my old ring. I'd love to have it one more time. And he's like, it's BlondeBear.
Dude, okay.
He's dropped 4 of them in party with me.
Deal with it.
I have. So we actually, a funny story. We actually watched Lord of the Rings, that's what it's called. I watched Lord of the Rings for the first time with BlondeBear during Fang Scrolls, and that scene caught me off guard because I was like expecting this really fun adventure movie, and then it turned into horror all of a sudden. It was terrifying. I'm really bad with horror stuff.
I am too.
I've been playing a lot of Lethal Company.
Oh, you've been playing Lethal Company though.
What is that game?
There's just
it's so much fun. It's so fun and so scary. We should play it. Yeah. That would be so fun.
Sounds like some sussy shit. Like last time I was playing like Duck Duck Goose, which is like Among Us but for ducks and geese. And
I love Goose Duck.
Yeah, Goose Duck. And like
Longhorn
Finch.
Goose Duck.
Longhorn Finch walks up to me and goes, "Hey, Blue, good fights in Node Wars tonight." Oh, I'm like, "Oh, thanks." I just finished the task. I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man." He's like, "Just so you know, there's nothing personal." And then he sliced me in half like a maniac and kept walking.
The Pelican roll in that game is so much fun. I love it. The Pelican makes the game 2 times Among Us. Like, it's so much fun. Love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, I can't wait to play the horror game on stream now that the sub goal was reached. But from all, I am Blue Squadron. There's always something going on my channel. Honestly, when I say always, lately I really do mean always.
Literally always.
Subathon has been going on for 11 days. We're We're actually on day 11 now, I think. We were on day 10 yesterday. Now we're on day 11 officially. There's always YouTube content being released on the YouTube, at least two videos a day typically on the YouTube. So make sure you check that out. There's going to be events all of next month. So make sure you tune in for that. Join the Discord. Check out the Twitter and all the social medias because I always keep those up to date as well. From all of us here at the Old Moon Podcast. Oh yeah, remember to catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. From all of us here at the Old Moon Podcast, have a great rest of your week, guys.